here at the Browns Foundation annual golf outing at Westwood Country Club. And we heard today from Joel Bitonio and Kevin Stefanski before everybody hit the course. So Mary Kay, let's start with Joel Bitonio. This is the first time we've had a chance to catch up with him since the off-season program started. And look, with Joel, every year it's kind of will he, won't he? Obviously this year, again, it's another will he. He's back for another season.
He is back, and this is his 11th season. He did note that Joe Thomas quit after 11 seasons, so you have to wonder if Joel isn't getting to the end of the road. Hopefully not. We all want him around for another decade or so, but we'll have to see how that goes. They know they have Zach Zinter kind of waiting in the wings to take over when Joel is done, but I'm sure he will go out there and have another all-pro season this year.
Yeah, and Ashley, he's started to put some timetables on things, right? We asked him about the 18-game season, and he said, look, I'm probably not going to be here for the next collective bargaining agreement or for an 18th game and all of that. So, you know, it has been interesting over the last couple years. It does feel like Joel himself is kind of seeing the end of the road.
Yeah, I mean, he also made the comment today that he knows that more seasons are behind him than ahead of him, which I think mathematically makes sense. But, I mean, I did think it was also interesting. He did say today he feels good after we know how banged up he was last year. His back, his knee, his ankle, I think all kinds of stuff he had going on at different points of the 2023 season. So I think it was good to hear from him today, and it sounds like things are feeling great right now, which is where you want to be in the spring.
You know, we did get to talk to Joel about this proposal for the OTA program. Of course, the NFLPA floated the idea of just doing away with OTAs, doing away with minicamp, and expanding it out into training camp, adding more training camp time, possibly into the middle of June, in fact. Mary Kay, I thought Joel was interesting. He seems open to the idea. Of course, he's a guy that normally doesn't show up for OTAs or isn't really involved in OTAs all that much, so it's not all that surprising. But again, he's a guy that knew J.C. Tretter well. They were really good friends. J.C. Tretter was the former president of the NFLPA who wanted to do away with OTA, so no big surprise that Joel would maybe be open to that idea.
Yeah, he's certainly not as opposed to it as Shelby Harris. We've already heard from Shelby Harris, who absolutely wants no part of coming back in mid-June to start the season and stick around until February 18th if you win the Super Bowl. So Joel is open to it, but I wonder how he would feel about it if mid-June rolls around and all of a sudden he has to report for training camp. Not sure how the wife and kids would feel about that either, but we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah, maybe we should actually ask Courtney Bitonio what she thinks of it. But Ashley, again, this is something that's going to be a story as more players come back, and I just think across the league, like with anything with the NFLPA, there's going to be a million differing opinions about it.
Yeah, I asked Joel about that because those Shelby comments were kind of the first thing that came to mind, and Joel talked about the positives being players getting more of this dedicated ramp-up period right before training camp. And he said, you know, right now it's so difficult, and he admitted he even doesn't know all the details of this proposal yet. No player really does, so it's hard to make a fully concrete, informed opinion right now. But again, I'm not surprised guys are expressing their opinions on this early because it would be such a big change.
Now, we did also hear from Kevin Stefanski today, the first time we've talked to him in a couple weeks, and Mary Kay, he kind of just reiterated something he said a couple weeks ago when you asked him about Deshaun Watson. He said Deshaun looks like Deshaun, which I guess that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And of course, they're taking it nice and slowly with Deshaun Watson. He's throwing every other day during OTAs. This is the last week of OTAs. He's not throwing against a defense right now, and he doesn't even have a lot of his guys out here yet, like Amari Cooper and David Njoku. But they are making progress in the passing camp, and Deshaun is coming along very, very well.
Yeah, and Ashley, again, it's so hard to tell necessarily how it's going to look when it translates into games, but what we saw, all the reports from Kevin, it seems like Deshaun is where he needs to be.
Yeah, it just kind of was that standard answer, I think, that we all expected from Kevin Stefanski on a question like that today. And again, he did talk about and reiterate, you know, the offense is definitely at an advantage in these practices just because there's no contact, the defense isn't getting them, there's no pass rush happening. So it's passing camp, which is what we all know, and it sounds like Deshaun is where they want him for this passing camp for the most part.
Okay, we will be in Berea for one more OTA practice this week, and then it is mandatory mini camp next week, and then before you know it, we are going to be at the Greenbrier to kick off training camp. Full coverage at cleveland.com/Browns.